Earlier this year, we cashed a check for almost $1 million. In this video, we're going to talk about how we got to that point where we could cash that much money and what we did after we cashed it. So stay tuned.
I've always wanted to do that.
So Lucas, we cashed a check this year for almost $1 million, and we ended up just taking out $100 bills and cashing them and just having them around the office, right?
Well, details, Sam. We didn't necessarily cash this check. We deposited it, and it was actually 4 different checks that totals almost $1 million.
In our bank account, though. So
Yes.
it wasn't actual cash, but it was checks written to us, cashier's checks written to us that we deposit in our bank account.
Yeah, that's fun. How did we do that?
I don't know.
Like, looking back on it,
Let's relive it, and then we'll explain to the viewers, because it's crazy the fact that we cash a check for almost $1 million, deposit a check for almost $1 million. So in this video, we're going to talk about how we did that, what vehicle we used to do that, and then we're going to talk about what we did after the fact and give some advice and thoughts along the way. Spoiler alert, we did it through real estate investing, through our rental portfolio. So we refinanced our rental portfolio. We spent the last 5 years growing our rental portfolio. We'll talk about what we did and how we did that. But when it all comes to it, we built the rental portfolio, got it till it was worth this, we owed this, and we took out a cash out refinance and took out some of our equity. Not all of our equity, we're not over leveraged by any means, but we took out some of our equity as cash rather than just sitting there doing equity, doing nothing.
exactly. So stay tuned for what we did, how we did it, and why we did it.
So we have a rental portfolio is worth a little over $11 million at this point, with I guess 116 doors with a few more in the books coming up. So
Yeah, 116 residential doors, and then about 78 storage units that you always forget to tell these guys about.
storage units, we have 78 storage units, we're building another 100 as well. So we're doing some fun stuff with that. So in order to get that big amount, it took us a few years, but what did we do? What are kind of lessons we learned? What are the couple biggest things that we did to get that much power and that much leverage, or what are a few things we did to get that much equity where we could tap into it?
Yeah, so whenever I think about this story, and it's not a story, about us pulling out almost $1 million, and that was what, 5 months ago?
During the middle of all this virus stuff.
Yeah, so what led us to that point? And to me, I always think about that first freaking rental that we bought, that first one. And that first rental we bought in 2014, and we got almost 75 grand of equity in that house. And we did that 116 times.
And we didn't use any of our own money to buy it.
We used none of this. None
of this real money to buy it.
This is real?
Yeah. So what Luke's talking about, the power of leverage, the power of using other people's money through the BRRRR strategy. We're not going to go into detail about what the BRRRR strategy or the BRRRR method is. This video up here does go into detail and explains it in great detail. We're on that whiteboard right over there. Professor Sam came out. But that's extremely powerful to leverage other people's money so you don't have to use your own money so you can grow faster.
Exactly. That did help us grow faster. We didn't use $1 of our personal funds or business fund. We leveraged private lenders, hard money lenders, banks to be able to grow this awesome portfolio, watch it appreciate, and then watch our tenants pay that note balance down and create that big chunk of equity for us.
So I think that's a good point, Lucas. That is the power of having a rental portfolio. Is not just, when I used to think of rental portfolios, I used to just think of cash flow. It's about the cash you get every month. You get that with rentals, but in my opinion, the way more powerful part of it is how your equity grows. So on that first rental, for example, we owed 100 on it and it was worth 125,000. So we had this much equity in between my hands. That's the equity.
Yeah,
right? That's the
that's
equity.
25.
That's the $25,000 worth of equity. And over the past 5 years, the property's gone up in value, and the tenants have paid the notes down. Tell them where to stop.
Value, note pay down. Stop.
All right. So just that happened over 5 years. We didn't do anything. Obviously, we rented the property.
Managed it well.
We managed it well.
Yeah.
But the property, without us doing one thing, was worth 125, now it's worth 165. And without us doing one thing to pay the note extra, we didn't pay extra any month, we didn't come out of pocket.
Minimum payments.
Now we know 85, probably a little less than 85 at this point. So we have
80 grand of equity right there.
So we have 80 grand of equity just in one deal. It just happens. That's why that whole saying, landlords go rich in their sleep, because stuff like that happens. So imagine that one property times 100, times 20, times 5, however many you want to do, just the power of compounding, tenant paying the note down, and the value going up, because the value does go up. I get that in the next couple of years, values might kind of be stagnant. There might be a little bit of not as aggressive growth, but they're going to go up again, I promise. If they came out of 08 and went up, they're going to come out whatever happens next and go up. So over the aggregate Is that right? Aggregate?
Sure.
Over the aggregate, they are going to grow in value.
I just say the long run.
Over the long run. Okay, that's, we do things different. That's fine.
All right, so after that first deal that we now have 80 grand worth of equity in, we just kept consistently buying quality rental properties using the burst strategy with none of our own money over the past 5-6 years. And looking back on it, now we got 116 rentals. So as you can imagine, that's 80 grand per that one house in equity spread over 116 times. So here's what the numbers actually looked like. Our portfolio at the time was worth about $8 million, and we owed in debt about $5 million. I think that's what, around 65% LTV. Please check my math on that.
Which stands for loan to value. How much we own the property or how much they're worth. That's what LTV stands for.
So we had $3 million worth of equity, and that equity can be tapped and utilized for certain things. And when it's just sitting there doing nothing, we call that debt equity. Because when we use the burst strategy, we usually finance about 80% loan to value.
Yep.
And we're still paying on that 80%. So our monthly payment is pretty high still, but our equity is this much. So we're able to tap into that debt equity, put some money in our pockets, and also get some better terms on the back end.
I'm horrible at throwing these.
That's why you gotta.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so on the back end.
So you're probably wondering how much money we actually deposit into our bank account. The exact amount of the check was.
No.
Okay.
Not yet. But
stay tuned, we'll tell you here in a minute.
So we're able to get these awesome turns, cash flow more, pull out equity, put these things in our pocket. How are we able to do that?
We did that through banking relationships because it didn't just happen overnight. It's not like you can just usually something like this, a check with this big amount happens overnight. This took time, this took relationships, this took a lot of different forks in the road to meet at this point, which the biggest one in my opinion was, besides building the portfolio, was building the banking relationships, having a great relationships with a couple different banks, mainly the one that we use for this refinance, but we had such a great relationship with this banker that we basically sat down in his office, he owns the bank, and we talked about what we wanted to do, we talked through the terms, talked through what we wanted. I thought there was no way in hell he was gonna do what we requested.
You can't cuss on here.
Yeah, I just did. I thought there was no way that we could get the terms that we got, and it was crazy. Talk a little bit about the terms, like what we did and how we negotiated that a little bit. Remember that meeting?
Absolutely. So most of our, when we initially burr out of a deal, we get 75 to 80% loan to value, 25-year amortization, and like 5 to 6% interest rate.
Yep.
And that's okay, but we wanted something better. We're in this low interest environment right now where we can lock in these rates for a long time, and even when they go up in the future, we stay at the interest rate that we lock in. So we wanted to capitalize on this low interest environment. I think right now, home mortgages are like below 3%, which is crazy. So obviously, we're not going to get that on a cash out refi on investment properties, but we were able to get 4.5% locked in for 10 years, which is unbelievable, and that's spread over 30-year amortization.
So that is why our monthly mortgage went down. We took out.
How far more down did it go?
We got $7 grand more a month in cash flow.
And that's strictly because we're paying $7 grand less a month to the bank.
In interest. So we got $7 grand a month more in cash flow. We were able to tap into some of the equity. I think at the time we went up to 75% loan to value. So we still had 25% equity. We still had a couple million in equity.
Yeah.
So we still have plenty of equity. I feel pretty secure. And I feel like at this point, it's been a couple months, I bet we're probably closer to that 70% again. So we still probably got about 30% equity in our portfolio as well as the money we get.
Yeah, so we used the burst strategy 116 times, so we got all these little loans floating out there. And what we did, we pretty much wrapped them into one loan. And that's the loan that Sam talking about, that's $7 grand less in total of what we used to pay for all these other loans combined.
Yeah, and I would say that if you don't have 115 properties, that's okay. But if you have 5 or 10 or wanting to grow, this is just another tool in your belt that you can use at some point. If you have 10 properties and you didn't think about, maybe I should refinance, get my interest rate lower, pull out some cash, now it might be a great time to do that, because cash, especially over these next couple of years, I think cash is going to be important to have in your pocket.
Yeah, so go ahead and take a step back if you've been growing over the past year, 2, 3, and kind of look at where your portfolio sits, loan to value, what your interest rates are, and play around with that and see what you could do to increase cash flow and put some money in your pocket.
And if you don't have a rental portfolio, that's fine, that's no problem.
Start one.
Start one, A, but B, that just shows you the power of having a rental portfolio, the power of owning an asset that someone has to live in and pays you for, and they pay all the expenses, plus you get cash flow. So owning a rental portfolio is what we teach and preach every day because it's extremely powerful. And this is just one, well, it's not a small example, but there's so many other benefits, but this is one of them for sure.
Absolutely.
You ready to tell them how much the check was for?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you know the number?
I think I do.
Give it to
The check was for $879,534.
How many cents?
I think 12.
No,
I made
but that's
that up.
okay.
Yeah, we don't know the percents, but so we cashed. So that's crazy, guys. We deposited a check or 4 or 5 checks that equaled that, but $880,000 went into our bank account.
And then we went and bought a huge yacht, right?
Yeah, we financed 4 yachts because we want to each have our own and then have a spare.
Gotcha.
So we financed 4 yachts.
Leverage, the power of leverage.
Yes, buying 4 yachts. Now, what did we do with the money, Lucas?
Yeah, so we had a good plan for the money. We didn't want to just pull out money and have it just sit in our bank account because that's the same thing as having debt equity. So what we did with the money is we utilized some private lenders in some of our apartment deals, and a couple other private lenders is just operating capital as we were growing. So we paid off those lenders, and that also helped our cash flow even more.
I think it was about $1,500 a month go up, right?
Exactly. So that's the main thing we did with them. We put some cash reserves in our main rental operating account, and then we put a little bit of money in each of our own personal reserves.
Yeah, because we hadn't, over this whole process, we hadn't taken any money from a rental portfolio. We just kept dumping it in on purpose to grow and have security in our bank accounts, be able to pay our taxes, be able to, oversee any issues that could have came up. So we wanted to have that security in the bank. So we hadn't taken any money in 5 years. So we took, it was a pretty good chunk. We each took a pretty good chunk home. So that's kind of what we did with the money. We didn't just want to take it out to take it out. We wanted to increase cash flow was the main thing, but we also wanted to free up and feel a little more comfortable.
Exactly, and we kind of saw some sort of correction coming even before this COVID thing started. So we wanted to prepare for that, even if it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. We wanted to prepare for that a little bit, and this was a huge step in enabling us to take down another big chunk of properties when an opportunity becomes available over the next year or two.
So if you thought this video was a cool video and it spoke to you and you saw the power of real estate, make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you get notified when videos come out. We go live every Wednesday night, so you want to definitely get notified so you know we're going live, so you can interact with us, ask us questions. I'll be glad to answer your questions live when we go present and talk live, and also comment on the videos. I'm the one that answers every single freaking question that gets answered on our YouTube. Every single question has an answer. Go look at it. So you do that, and I'll help interact, and I'll help you or answer any question you have. But also, did you know we're giving away 10,000
of these?
Well, these are $100 bills, so
oh,
1,000.
Yeah.
We're gonna weigh 1,000 of these. Well, we're gonna weigh something that's worth that. So we talked a little bit earlier. So I get asked question all the time. Do I one-on-one mentoring? People ask to fly me out to New York, and so we don't do that. I'm not traveling to mentor people, but what we are doing is we're giving away our team for a day. So Lucas, myself, Brian, everybody on our team, we have people in this building. Probably have close to 500 rental doors in this building. So if you want to talk rental properties, we rehab 75 houses a year. If you want to talk rehab, and if you want to talk wholesale, we wholesale 125 houses a year. If you want to talk tenant screening, anything about real estate investing mindset, whatever it is, you'll have access to our team for a full day. How do you get what I'm explaining? You comment on our videos. It's a comment challenge, we call it. So your name goes into a virtual hat when you comment on our videos. At the end of the year, we'll pull a name out of that hat, and whoever that is, they can either come out to our office or virtually we'll give you access to us. If you want to travel, if you're from out of the state, you can definitely travel in and stay in a hotel, we'll go out to dinner. So we just want to help one person grow their rental portfolio. That day will be worth a lot of money for whoever gets it. And all you have to do is comment on our videos.
You think that's only worth 10 grand?
Well, it's probably worth more. I just threw 10 grand on it to be conservative. Okay. It's probably worth more than 10 grand knowing what the value is. All you have to do is comment. And if you don't know anything about real estate investing, by the end of that day, you will.
So in order to execute a strategy like this, you gotta have rental properties.
Yep.
And a lot of you guys are watching probably haven't even bought your first one. But we did create a webinar video, Sam and I, where we talk an hour, at least, an hour and 10 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah.
But we go into great detail about how to find and how to buy your first rental property.
Using other people's money.
Yes, and you can go to that video right here, and we'll teach you guys how to do that. And then you can, hopefully buy a whole bunch of properties and someday execute a strategy like this and put $1 million in your pocket.
Catch you on the next one. All right, so
we don't need no effing hook on this beat.
Hook on this beat. What is the next time?
All I need is a track in the background of my headphones, something like that.
The blunt going round.
Yeah, there we go.
Going round's part of it. All right. In this video, we're going to talk about how we cashed a check for almost $1 million. We're going to talk about how we got to that point. We were able to cash that check. We're going to tell you what we did after we cashed the check.
Don't do it!
He hates.
I thought it was gonna go like like a brick.
That's not how. It didn't even go anywhere. It's like, actually a little bit.
Maybe we do like a little slow motion, like at that part. I don't know.
Should.
Yeah.
I screwed it up. You're usually good at keeping going with when I show stuff at you.
Other loans combined.
Yep, and I would say that that is distracting.
How are we able to do that? Through banking relationships.
How are we able to do that?
Yeah.
Look at me. All right.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't do it. All right.
Yeah.